Are you winning, son? What's poppin'? How you guys doing? Hope everything's going well for you. Just figured I'd hop on here and plaster this ugly mug back on some more videos because I haven't made some videos with this ugly mug on there, and they seem to do a little bit better, and I feel like I should do them more often. So here I am. Anyways, the idea that I had for today's video is I was going to sleep, and for some reason I was thinking about matchmaking or player skill bell curves, which is basically just every game ever, I think, has been recording player data or having a player skill metric that they follow, and I'm assuming that they're fairly accurate these days. I'm assuming they've got been able to identify how good a player is based off of, whatever recording factors they choose, are pretty accurate. So if you don't know what that looks like, I got this here. This right here is what a normal player skill curve looks like. This one's from Destiny 2. There's a little bit of variation, like sometimes it's like a little thicker down here. There's a little less at the top. They're kind of change as time goes on, and as games go on, the where the bell curve kind of sits does change as well. But I had an idea for a matchmaking parameters because that's a huge topic, skill-based matchmaking, connection-based matchmaking. I've been thinking about it. So here's my idea. Granted, now take note, I'm not a game developer. I'm not any sort of like data scientist. I'm just some random dude on the internet who had an idea about a matchmaking system. So hear me out. Hear me out. Here's what I'm thinking. Okay. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but this is what I was thinking. So I'm thinking the bottom 20 or 15 to 20%. I'm thinking 15%. Now, I don't have like an exact clicker, but I got these lines. So let's say that's the bottom 15 and that's the top 15%. And granted, these bell curves change as the game goes on, as players get better or new players get introduced to the game. I think the bottom, here's rule number one. Rule number one. The bottom 15% should never get in a match with the top 15%. And this is just for your casual, everyday matchmaking, not any sort of rank system. I got my own opinions on a different rank system. However, I think rule number one, bottom 15% never play the top 15%. And they can adjust that 15 to a 16 or lower. These are all adjustable. Then you take another split and you just cut that sucker right down the middle. And here's how I think matchmaking should poll. So the top 15% and the bottom 15% can never match. But the top 15% will match down with this area of the upper half of the overwhelming majority of players, right? Now, granted, this can change as populations get smaller, low population hours. I have ideas for that. But you just cut this sucker right down the middle. Now, everyone in this middle matchmaking section can matchmake with everyone in the middle and then their respective sides. So if you're on the lower half, you can matchmake with players on the bottom 15%. If you're on the upper half, you can matchmake with players on the higher 15%. Then, my next idea is that most people in general would prefer a good connection when they match into their games. So I know that some have come up with hybrid varieties, but my idea is that let's say you're right here, right? This is you. This is you as a player. Your matchmaking will start within a certain window from your matchmaking skill, which I'm sure is already used and is fairly common, but every 30 seconds, if it can't find stable connections, it widens the window to maybe someone down here, and then it gets wider and wider as time goes on, right? Same deal if you're down here, it starts with people below you and above you within a certain parameter, and then every 30 seconds, it just widens it more and more. Granted, if there's a low population hour, you could just adjust it. So straight up, if you are here in the top 15%, it just takes this upper half of the general population and just automatically starts the matchmaking with the upper half and everyone above. So you get some variance. You'll have some sweaty matches, but as long as it finds good connections, I'm sure most players will be happy. Granted, you can never please every single player. It's not possible, physically not possible. But here's where my idea steps up a level. What if this bell curve, now granted, this bell curve was, like I said, was taken from Destiny 2, and this is their total, everyone who's ever stepped into a PvP match ever, this is everyone, at all times, so not an active player base. What if you could, A, with these matchmaking parameters I have set, you use AI. I feel like might be a use for AI, but you make it so that this bell curve graph is an actively changing graph, or it's a graph that shows all active players' skill levels at the same time. And so as players log off or players log on, they get added to the curve or get removed from the curve. So it's an active graph. So things are constantly changing on there. And then you use maybe like some AI. Granted, I have no idea how hard this would be to code. This is just my brain thinking, all right? They would use AI to just monitor this curve and adjust those matchmaking lines or parameters as, population's lower, as they get higher. They can adjust how far the search goes as time goes on, right? There's a lot of knobs that you can dial with, and I'm sure they already have all this data and whatnot collected. But you have an active graph of your active player base, and using like an AI program or just a program in general, it just adjusts these lines of the matchmaking parameters to the bell curve as the game goes on, so that you get mostly fair matches as time goes on based on low population, high population, how many players are playing the game. It adjusts to the population that you're working with that are currently playing Crucible or playing any PvP mode that whatever game may have. Granted, I don't think this will work for all games, but that was just my idea. If you think this is ass, great, awesome. Would this probably work? I have no idea, nor do I have any way to test this, or if anyone wants to use this in a game they might make with PvP, go for it. Me personally, do I think this would work? I think it'd be a good idea to try, and maybe someone has already tried it. Maybe the exact thing that I'm talking about right now has already been done, and it was just complete garbage. I have no idea. But this was my idea. Now, as far as like a skill-based or a rank-based matchmaking for like a ranked game mode, I think that shit should be brutal. I do. I think that, like, hear me out. I think that should be just brutal. I think it should be, you have 0 points, you have 10,000 points, right? Or maybe that's a little extreme. Let's go, 10,000 points, whatever. Each match, you get 25 points if you win, you lose 25 points if you lose. But here's how I would change things up if you have like a team, or if it's just like a solo game mode. Here's in my mind, this is what makes sense. If you win and you performed the best on your team, let's say there's 3 players per team, so 6 players total in a match, and it's just looking at your team. So they have a pretty good gauge, most game developers have a pretty good gauge on how your performance was in a match based on like KDA, assists, whatnot, how many deaths you had. There's easy ways to gauge that. My idea is if you won and you performed the best out of the 3 players, it adds 3 points. So let's say you win 25 points for winning the match, and then you get another +3 on there because you performed the best. And that's that. Boom. Match is done. Move on to the next one, right? And then if you lose the match, but you perform the best on your team, it deducts the amount of points you lose. So you would normally lose 25. Now you're only losing 23 because you performed the best. And then if you perform the second best, you get a +2. And if you perform the worst, it's just no bonus whatsoever. You -25 +25, right? And that's just it, man. That's how I like to keep it. I like to keep things simple. I think a ranked-based matchmaking should just be brutal, and it should just be a put your nose down and get good, which not everyone will agree with, which is fine. You don't have to agree with me. Everyone's allowed to have opinions. I'm not going to tell you that you can't think. You can't think. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that you can't think, dude. Boom, different me, even though it's the same me. I just want to pop this in here real quick, because I was like, what if someone that's at like 5,000 points in the rank matchmakes and hops in with their buddy, let's say he's 2,000, right? I think past a certain skill bracket, once you're high enough, you should only be able to match or queue up with your friends. That's a whole different topic. But hypothetically, let's say there was no restrictions, and someone at 5,000 rank could queue with their buddy who's never played rank before, right? And so they're at 0 points, and his buddy's at 5,000. I think there should be huge risks for the person who is at 5,000 rank, who's trying to sort of exploit the system by using their buddy to draw their average down, because that's usually how most ranks try to balance teams, is they try to get averages between the teams to try to make things fair. But hypothetically, let's say he's at 5,000 rank, homie's at 0, average is 2,500, right? He's going to matchmake other teams that are generally around 2,500. But he's at 5,000. The other team are probably average or close to around 2,500. So if he loses a match, he gets slammed down much, much quicker. And it doesn't bring up his teammate. His teammate has to climb the normal way that everyone else did. He gets the 25 points if he wins. If he does the best, he gets that +3 on top. Bing, bang, boom. Grind it out. However, the person on the top is going to have a penalty to where if he loses the match to people that are ranked significantly lower than him, he gets a huge chunk loss. So that's how it steps outside of only losing 25 points. So that there's only risks for the players who are trying to exploit the system. And sure, they might win every match. That's cool. But if they lose one, it's going to reverse a bunch of that progress. I don't know. Depending on the difference, maybe minus 100 points, minus 500 points, cook them by 1,000. Make it risky, Don't let players exploit the system by just inviting buddies who are a low rank. That's what I was thinking. Just because I thought about that as I was watching my video back. But that's what I got. I'm just going to cut back to the outro now. But, yeah, that's all I got. This was just an idea I had, so I'm just throwing this up there. And maybe I'll come up with some more ideas in the future. Thanks for watching. See ya.